It's a tough crowd today. Okay. We're good.
We're live, ready to go.
Yep.
All right. Good evening. Today is May 22nd, 2023 at 5:30 p.m. We are in the Brecksville-Broadview Heights Education Center, 6638 Mill Road, Brecksville, Ohio. This is a meeting of the Board of Education in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. Item 1B, Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 1C, roll call.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack?
Yes.
Mrs. Wigman?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes. Item 2A, resolve to accept the resignation of Joel Magyar effective at the end of business, July 31st, 2023. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer?
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski?
Yes.
Mrs. Mack? Mrs. Wigman?
Yes.
Mr. Dosen?
Yes. Just a note, we will also be accepting this resignation on our regular board meeting in 2 days. We were given guidance that it would be good to also accept it here prior to approving the contract for our new superintendent, just to be safe. Item 1C, resolve to employ superintendent and approve consultant employment contract. Should I read? Yes, let me read through all the resolution. I'm going to do it off my screen. Whereas the Board of Education of the Brecksville-Broadview Heights City School District Board desires to hire Jeffrey Harrison or superintendent as its superintendent, and whereas in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 3319.01, the board desires to employ the superintendent upon such terms as are agreed upon for a term of 3 years, beginning August 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2026. And whereas the board further desires to consider the utilization of Mr. Harrison on an as-needed basis as a consultant to aid in the transition for the period beginning June 1st, 2023 until the commencement of his employment as superintendent effective August 1st, 2023. And whereas it is agreed upon that Mr. Harrison shall be compensated at an agreed per diem contractual rate for any and all work performed on behalf of the Board of Education prior to the effective date of his contract as superintendent pursuant to a consultant contract. Now, therefore, sorry, I scrolled too far. Now, therefore, be it resolved that by this board action and in accordance with Ohio Revised Code Section 3319.01, that Jeffrey Harrison is employed as superintendent for a term of 3 years pursuant to contract terms as are agreed between the parties beginning August 1st, 2023 through July 31st, 2026. And be it further resolved for the consideration specified therein, the board employs Jeffrey Harrison effective June 1st, 2023 and ending July 31st, 2023 as a consultant on such terms as have been agreed upon between the parties thereto. And be it further resolved that the board authorizes and directs the board president and treasurer on behalf of the board to execute both the employment contract and the consultant contract upon such terms as are agreed upon by the board and Jeffrey Harrison as outlined above. Section 2, it is found and determined that all formal action of this Board of Education concerning or related to the adoption of this resolution was adopted in an open meeting of this board, and all deliberations of this board that resulted in such formal action were adopted in meetings open to the public in compliance with all applicable requirements of the Ohio Revised Code. Did I do a motion?
May I have a motion?
May I have a motion? I couldn't remember if I did or not. It was so long ago.
So moved. Second.
Any questions or concerns?
None at all.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack, Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes. Mr. Harrison, congratulations. Let's close out our meeting and we can move on. Item 3A, regular announcements of meetings. Our next regular meeting of the Board of Education is scheduled this Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. Item 4A, adjournment. Resolved to adjourn the meeting. May I have a motion?
So moved. Second. Oh.
Roll call.
Mrs. Kramer,
Yes.
Mrs. Kwiatkowski,
Yes.
Mrs. Mack, Mrs. Wigman,
Yes.
Mr. Dosen.
Yes, that concludes our meeting. Everyone have a good evening. We'll be back here again in 2 days.